All right, so with your Lodi, we're gonna do a under and on top. So you have to cover the foot from underneath too, because that's where the strips have to touch, okay? Now, if the athlete's going into play, you're in the locker room or on a sideline and they're going into play, you're gonna use a half heel and lace pad because they're gonna be in a cleat or a shoe or something that's gonna be putting a lot of pressure where the tape is. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take, I just made a typical heel and lace pad and I cut it in half. You're gonna take half of it and you're gonna put it over that calcaneal tuberosity, and then you're gonna start your tape job. Now what we've adapted over the years is to help that stay in place, I put a piece of coverall over it, okay, to keep it in place. Or if they're not going into play, you're in the clinic and you're analyzing if you just think a Lodi is gonna be good for support, and you wanna see if they're needing an orthotic and you're doing it as an orthotic assessment, you do not need a heel and lace pad. But I do still protect their skin for tape cuts with this piece of coverall. Does that make sense? So in the clinic, all you would do is put this piece. On the sideline, you're going to do a heel and lace pad, and then I tend to give it a little extra covering to make sure that heel and lace pad doesn't shift, and that's how it'll look on the sidelines, okay? So then we're gonna take our 1-inch piece of, or 1-inch roll of white, and we're gonna start making, so you guys might need to come this way to see. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the longitudinal and a horizontal arch. We're gonna rebuild the arch with tape. So the first thing you're gonna make sure you do is we're gonna go from lateral to medial, right? Because we wanna support the arch, and a lot of people have this overpronation, and so we're gonna go from lateral to medial. You see her, you can see she's got a little callus right there. That's her 5th, down to her 1st. You see how it goes in that arched fashion, right? You can see hers very clearly, her metatarsals. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna come, you see how I'm not on the metatarsals? I didn't cover the 1st and the 5th. I went just below it. Do you see that? From lateral to medial, and I placed my 1st anchor that had no tension on it. From there, I'm gonna start tensioning to create my loops. We're gonna start at the base of the 5th. You know where it is because look at the callus right there, okay? You're gonna come around the back, underneath. We're gonna get the length that we need and rip it. And you see how I didn't put the tape down, okay? I want you guys to get used to that. You don't have to put the tape down. You're just gonna then anchor. This thumb now anchors right here and it pulls the tape up. And then I give it a little lay down. So what we wanna avoid, then we're gonna go to the 4th around. What we wanna avoid is just this big pulling motion because all they're gonna feel is the pressure at the calcaneus. So we're gonna do attach with a little tension, back off as we get there, place my thumb and pull and smooth. Okay, then the 3rd around, creating a fan shape, thumb, pull, place. 2nd, tension around, I'm hitting that same spot, place, smooth. Last one, 1st to 1st. And lay down. So now we've created 5 longitudinal arches, okay, to help support, or 5 slings to support the longitudinal arch. Now we're gonna create the horizontal arch. Here's the calcaneus. We're gonna bisect it on a slight angle, and we're gonna start a pulling technique up. The key here is to go past the first of all of these arches that I made here. You need to be on the foot there. We're gonna overlap 50% to the one below, come around, give her a pull up. Again, that's why we go lateral to medial, up, up. Now as I'm getting to the top of the foot, by her toes, I'm gonna decrease my pressure right here. And this last one is just for neatness, and it's to cover all of those. Okay, so if you started too high, you're gonna end really high and you're gonna cover all of her toes and she's not gonna be able to push off at all. So you have to start below, okay? And make sure you rip your strips below so that they don't get all up here. There should always be a small pocket of the heel popping out at you on this tape job, okay? Now what we're gonna do is gonna go cover and anchor all of those extra edges. So from lateral to medial, I'm gonna cover all of the edges. I'm gonna come around to the medial side and I'm gonna place and cover all those edges, okay? So now she's in there. The last piece is to secure it completely to her foot. If she's going into the game or on the sidelines or the locker room, we're gonna use the other half of the heel and lace pad where we think her laces are gonna strike. And then we're gonna cover it by laying down a piece, no pressure or tension, just enough to cover the pieces there. And now we're done. Okay, we just make sure it's on there. Usually what I'll have them do is have their sock ready to go. We put the sock on very carefully to not roll any of this. And then shoe goes on, and that glue, the second she starts to warm up in her sock, the glue is gonna start to get even stickier and it's gonna literally adhere to her. Okay, so that we don't have as much loosening over the course of her game or match or whatever she's doing. Okay, so remember, if it's in the locker room or sidelines, we're gonna use heel and lace pads. If we are not doing that, and this is just in the clinic, you can just put this tape right on the skin to cover. We don't have to protect from the laces, and we just put a piece of white coverall on the back. The keys that I tend to see that you guys kind of miss in terms of your pitfalls is you end up way too high and you're taping the Achilles. We need to be below the Achilles on the calcaneal, near the bursa, the tuberosity right back there. That's what you're trying to hook the tape on. Okay, the other thing I see you do is you start way too high. So I want you to get used to starting below the metatarsals for your first anchor. Make sure when you tear your pieces that you don't start going beyond that anchor. You should always end up on your anchor. That's why it's there. Okay, for you to hit your mark. Make sense? Okay, good.